like to call the meeting to order, Sustainability Committee, December 16th, 2020. Taking roll call, we have Tim Walziak on the phone. We have Rich Cortez, Bob Crowther, and Mark Scully, Ray Harris representing the town in the Department of Public Works. And that's everyone, correct? First, as far as I know, we do not have a public audience. I did not get notification from Erica that there was any questions, so we'll just move on from public audience. Seeing that we are missing a number of folks, I think we need to table the minutes to next month to read and approve. And I'm going to just go right into the announcements. Part of why there's not as many folks here is because we've had a few people step down. Sarah Kramer has stepped down from Culture, Parks, and Rec. It's my understanding that I believe Danielle Selly is taking her place. I have not heard anything recently, so it's my understanding that she is still taking her spot. Also, we have Jeff Tyndall has stepped down. As you may know, Jeff is the chairperson for the facilities master planning for the school district. And Jen Batchelor will be taking his seat on the committee. We also have Mary Turner from the recycling committee has stepped down. And Mike Tanka has given us notice that he's going to be stepping down from the Clean Energy Task Force. He did want to continue working with the Sustainability Committee. He's already started doing some of the work on the water initiative that we had discussed a couple months ago. And so for now, until we find his replacement on the Clean Energy Task Force, he's still on the committee. But if he steps off of the Clean Energy Task Force, he can continue sitting on our committee as a volunteer, but he won't be able to vote. And Mark, if you have any update or changes to that, jump in here with any information.
You know, I would suggest that you mention to Mike that he should feel free to step down from clean energy, and then he can focus on this group.
Right. He can only stay on as a voting member if he stays on Clean Energy Task Force, because he's on the Sustainability Committee representing the Clean Energy Task Force, unless we go to the Board of Selectmen and ask them to modify the makeup of the committee, okay, which we probably need to do anyways, because we've got 2 other slots to fill. Well, we have one aside from Mike's. So Mike can continue to stay on our committee. He just won't be able to vote. Okay.
Well, it certainly should be his call, but he shouldn't feel like he has to stay on Clean Energy Task Force until we find out, because it could take a while.
Right. And I sent him the information as far as, you know, I guess the rules that had been conveyed to me by Tom, and to see how he wanted to pursue handling, you know, either committee. I haven't heard back. I know he went away, I believe, or was out of town for Thanksgiving week, so I haven't heard anything. So that's, you know, we're going to have 4 new people potentially then on the committee going into next year. And I guess the other question would be if we want to, like I mentioned, going to the Board of Selectmen to see if they would be willing to change the makeup of our committee. If you guys have any ideas or thoughts of who, or, you know, I guess what committees we'd want to approach, or that you feel might want to be represented on this committee. And we can like send an invitation to them to see if they'd be interested in joining. Or have Tom speak with their liaison, whether it's Mike Glidden.
We should take a look at the now slightly revised list, the matrix, and maybe see if there are some areas where we'd like to be more active, or and then that might suggest that we reach out to certain groups. But I think we're already gotten to a good level, but if we look at sort of what we want to do next, that might dictate who we reach out to.
Okay. I have the list, the updated list. Ray, are you able to post? Did you get that from me, or?
Yep. The action list.
Yeah, it's the proposed 2021 action list.
Yep, I'm pulling it
I
up.
have that actually. That's on the agenda for today. Is to take a look at the list and start to divvy up the actions. My thoughts were to just assign a couple to everybody take 2 actions. I mean, like the whole group, and review it. And then if you think it's not going to fit what you represent, then we can maybe swap. But I think the only way we're going to be able to really tackle this is if we just start divvying up the actions and we start diving into it and explore, who needs to be a part of it. This is what the proposed changes are for this upcoming year. It's not a finalized list. They have not posted it yet, but they've moved some actions around and they've added some actions. So action 1 has to do with inclusivity and equitable community. Action 2 is staying the same as thriving local economies. So, we have the economic development here with action 2. So, that might be a good one for Bob, for you to take. We have the well-stewarded land and natural resources, which would encompass parks and rec and planning. Rich, do you think that falls more under parks and rec? The 3?
Yeah, I think it does. We don't develop any of that stuff. We more implement it than anything else through the applications we get. But we have a watershed plan. I don't know if they do education. I can marshal some of this. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
With somebody else.
So, all right, you can explore, just peruse this and see what you think. The next one is the vibrant, creative, cultural ecosystems, arts. This has to do with tourism, the arts, creative culture, placemaking. Any thoughts on who would be good to do this one?
So right now with planning, we were talking about the whole, the thing stuck in my head is it's not low income housing. It's affordable housing. I'm sorry.
Yes.
We've been talking about affordable housing, and some of this sense of place is part of what's falling in there. And I know that our chairperson went to the Board of Selectmen and asked for possibly a unifying policy to get us between what we have to do as a part of 830J for the state, plus all the other stuff that doesn't fall under that is still affordable housing that we need to do. So if we get some kind of a unified policy from the board, I think that will kind of encompass this and across a couple of other topics here.
Yeah, well, actually, if you look over at 11, that's all about affordable housing. affordable and diverse housing. So that would actually be a good one to put you under. It would be 11 as well.
That would be fine. As far as, so we're looking at reworking the town plan. So it's going to include sense of place and all of that, and we're doing some rewording on it as well. So we've started to redo that whole thing. So I'll let you know if sort of more falls into that bucket on our side that we can sort of affect.
Okay. The vibrant and creative cultural ecosystems may play also into economic development. Bob, what are your thoughts about that? Do you think that would be one for you to maybe take on with number 2, the thriving local economies?
Yeah, that would be fine. I think there's, a lot of what, there is a tourism committee in town, and we have people on our EDC who are also part of that committee, so I can work with them to help support this particular initiative within this committee.
Would that be maybe a committee we'd want to approach possibly?
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
Have a member sit on this committee?
Yeah, they've got quite a large group, so I think it would be
okay.
There would be people that would be willing to sit on this group.
Okay, so that would be good. So that's a good one to possibly tap into. Getting into dynamic and resilient planning, that I think definitely would fall under your area, Rich.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
I'm worried about biting off more than I can chew here, but I'll put that in my bucket as well.
Yeah. Well, the idea is that we'd have a couple people on each one of these. So as we get more people on board, we'll be divvying this up more. For instance, like I said, number 3, I think a lot of that will probably be more for Parks and Rec.
Yep.
Whoever that person will be. Clean and diverse transportation systems and choices would be Clean Energy Task Force. So that would go to Mark and myself, Tom, Mike Tanka, whoever else is going to be on board from the Clean Energy Task Force. And then we have renewable and efficient energy infrastructure and operations, which would also fall under the Clean Energy Task Force with Mark. Then we have the inclusive engagement, communications, and education. This has to do with holding sustainable events, communications, training representatives, and collaborating with other municipalities. So I can take on this one for now, unless there's a group that we think would be best to handle this. I mean, would this maybe be like Chamber of Commerce, perhaps, or
there's a group in town, I think they're called the Spirit Council.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And they've been all over this sort of inclusiveness and diversity issues.
Is that Cheryl Cook?
Yeah, that's Cheryl.
Runs that?
Yep.
Okay. So, because she's also very involved with the community
and aging and
programs,
disability too. Yep.
which might be a good one, like someone like her or someone from that group to also handle number 1, the inclusive and equitable community. So the Spirit group or community group might be another one to tap into.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
They put a lot of work. It just started, and they've been really spearheading a lot.
I mean, I've seen quite a bit of work that they've done recently, so I think that would be a good fit. So, all right, so Cheryl Cook, I'll reach out to? I think we have to we may need to, before we can approach these people though, is go to the Board of Selectmen and get their okay first. The next one is strategic materials management. Has to do with reducing waste, saving money on waste, recycling other materials. And I'm happy to take on this one as well.
Did Mary,
And I think
excuse me, anybody
Mary
else from recycling who might want to replace her?
it doesn't, it's my understanding that there is no one else that's going to come on board from the recycling committee. Mary's stepping down, and so we can also tap into somebody else for this area as well if anybody has any suggestions. Another thought is that we do have the okay to proceed with the youth group, and I think this might be one area that we could bring them into as well, potentially. But as far as trash and recycling, I'm not really sure who else we would go to.
Other than Mike Payne.
Other than Mike Payne, right?
Yeah.
I do have his name written down here. Yeah. So for now, I'll leave my name under it, and we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Optimal health and wellness opportunities. So this has to do with, healthy buildings, sustainable food networks, health impact assessments, air quality, promote community garden spaces. I mean, that is Parks and Rec. But I'm not sure, these other items I don't believe would fall under Parks and Rec. It's kind of like a collaboration of a lot of different groups. Does anybody oversee the air quality? Would that be Public Works? Like, for instance, the air quality in the buildings, or health impact assessments of buildings in town, like town hall, Hall?
I mean, the custodial staff cleans them, but other than that, we don't really do anything else I'm aware of.
Isn't that the Farmington Valley something or other?
Health, yeah.
Yeah, they
Farmington
would be
Valley Health
responsible for
District?
those kinds of things. Yeah.
Okay, and Mira is the trash recycling. All right, so Farmington Valley Health District. Who in our town deals with the Farmington Valley Health District?
Tom does for certain things.
Okay,
The Board of Ed.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we'll have to maybe explore that one, maybe talk to Tom about how to proceed or who would be a good one to oversee it. It might be, a few people that get involved in that one. The next one is healthy, efficient, diverse housing, and we've already discussed that would fall under Rich's area.
Yeah.
And, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just acknowledging, yes.
Okay. And actually, I just realized, Tim, that the well-stewarded land would also be in your category for
Open space.
open space. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm taking Rich's name off of number 3, and I'm putting yours down there.
Yep, that's totally
And-
fine.
Yep. And then whoever does Parks and Rec will be on that with you.
Awesome.
Effective, compassionate homelessness prevention, which has to do with social services. This is to increase public awareness of couch surfing, collect and share homelessness data, municipal services, homeless response systems, improve outcomes for people. So I'm not sure who oversees this, but Bob, I know that you had sent in an email to the folks over at Sustainable Connecticut,
Right.
with some information.
Yeah, I'd be happy to work on this.
Okay.
Because it's more
What
than just
about-
homelessness. It's homelessness. It's as well as just the whole food insecurity issues as well.
Right. And the folks that are kind of under the radar that we don't know about.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where-
So, I mean, but just as a FYI to everybody, what I sent over to the folks at Sustainable CT was a report done by the United Way. They've done it every 2 years. They just published their 2020 study. And the report is called ALICE, which stands for the Asset Limited Income Constrained But Employed. And it talks to what percentage of the overall population is barely making it, living basically check to check. And with the pandemic hitting, these are the people that are really, really struggling at the moment. And it looks at what percentage of each town across the whole state of Connecticut has people at this level. And in the Farmington Valley, including Simsbury, Avon, Farmington, Granby, the percentage of people living in the community has consistently been in the 22% of the population is at that level and below. So, which is literally 20, one in every 5 families is
Wow.
really, really struggling. So it gets into number 12. I've worked with the people in the Department of Social Services on a lot of food insecurity related issues. I'd be happy to take a look at this and see what we can do around. The way I would attack this issue is not just homelessness, but holistically around the whole, what are we doing to help those people in our community that are really struggling at the
Right.
moment.
The Simsbury, the group that deals with aging should
Yes, disability and
probably also be
aging.
part of this. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the same group that Cheryl is doing, or is it a different group?
They're lumped together. Disability and aging is lumped together.
Okay, all
Within
right.
the town structure.
But yeah, I
Okay,
believe Sherry's on a good point person for that as well.
Disability and aging. Okay, so what I have here right now is that 3 groups that might be ideal to have join our group is tourism, the spirit and community committees, and the disability and aging committee.
That's
Does
reasonable.
that sound right? Okay. And then number 13 has to do with innovative strategies and practices, which can be, whatever we want to do differently. One of the thoughts that we had was, to start this youth group with Tim and to possibly host an Earth Day in April. Although I think it might be a challenge. Who knows? We just don't know what's going to be happening at that point. So, we can discuss that further. Tim, I can talk to you a little bit more about that. But that could certainly be an innovative thing that we do for our town. And also, I think as we work some of these actions out, as we, flush out some of this stuff, some other ideas will come up. Does that sound like a plan?
I think it does.
It does.
Okay, so I have.
I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
would suggest that anything like an Earth Day kind of thing where you're talking about bringing people together.
Yeah.
If it's going to be in person, that we wait until after there's been sufficient inoculation going on. Not sure if this year's good for that, or if that might not need to go to next year for an in-person thing. Or, we can always try to organize some kind of a Zoom thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it might need to be low-key virtual type of thing for this year, for 21.
Mm-hmm.
And then, have the full year and a half to really plan for something in person in 22. Because the thing is that right now, there really isn't anything going on as far as town events in the spring and April. And it's a great way to bring the students into this and get them involved. So, so I think that, yeah, you know, I think even if we do something just on a small scale virtual for this first round would be good to just
Okay.
get going, you know?
Would that also fall under the education part of some of these?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it would be falling under 13, which is the innovative, possibly. And I mean, and I'm saying this without actually looking what the requirements are. And then also up in the inclusive engagement,
Yeah.
which is number 8. So Tim, I'm going to put you down on that. You know, you and I can work on that together to get that started.
Yep,
For
that sounds
number
good.
8. All right. Because I look at number 13 as like, once we get rolling with this stuff, 13 will just kind of fall into place as far
Okay.
as the innovative.
So just to checking in, you said number 8, right? We were talking about 13, but we're talking about focusing on number 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think,
Just
yeah,
making sure.
it would really be more. So Tim, I have you down for number 3,
Yep.
which is well-stewarded land and natural resources. Number 8 for inclusive engagement, and that would be specifically with the students.
Yep.
And it may also encompass number 9, because I think we could get students involved possibly with number 9, but we'll have to discuss further.
I think we could.
And I think the idea is that if we can get 2 people per action, then, you know, the 2 people can have kind of their side meetings, if you will, as far as working on the specifics. And so let me just kind of summarize here what we have. We've got the inclusive and equitable community impacts, which I'm not assigning to anybody because I think it would be one of these new folks, if we can get one of them on board, would probably take that one on. We've got Bob with number 2, thriving local economies. Tim with number 3, well-stewarded land and natural resources. Bob, vibrant on the vibrant, number 4, vibrant and creative cultural ecosystems. We've got Rich on number 5, dynamic and resilient planning. We've got Mark on clean and diverse transportation. And Mark is also on number 7 for renewable and efficient energy infrastructure. And then Tim and myself on number 8 for inclusive engagement. And, you know, that also, I'm just realizing, Tim, Jen Batchelor coming on board representing the Board of Ed, this might be a good one for her as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Yeah. And strategic materials management, I've got myself down for that one right now, and I'll communicate with Mike Payne. Number 10, optimal health and wellness opportunity. We'll talk to Tom Roy a little further on that one. And then we've got Rich for healthy, efficient, and diverse housing. And then Bob taking on effective, compassionate homelessness prevention. And 13, we're going to just leave open for now until we get further along. Sound good?
Mhm.
Yes.
All right. So, and just kind of stepping back on the announcement, I had that youth group as an announcement, and that was just to let you folks know that we are moving ahead. We've got the approval to move ahead with the youth group. It's just going to be an informal group. Tim Wozniak has already volunteered to spearhead that. And Tim, is that still, something you're comfortable doing with everything you have going on?
Yeah, I mean, we can. We'll be good. We'll be good. The kids that we've spoken with, I know from having in class, like, I think they're very motivated, self-starters, with just helping with direction, and I think we got to start somewhere, so we'll be good.
Right. And this might be also maybe one that Jen would want to do with you, or maybe Danielle or myself, so I think it would be good if we have 2 people involved.
I think, Jen and the Board of Ed would be great.
Yeah. So it's going to be informal. We don't have to follow, Robert's rules or anything like that. And in addition, I found out from Tom Roy that we have the approval for our own Facebook page for our committee, and it will be overseen by the Department of Public Works. So we would be sending content into Ray and to Carrie, and then they would be in charge of actually posting it onto the Facebook page. So I believe Tom is having Carrie put together the page for us. And so we'll,
just has to reach out.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just saying, yeah. So we were talking about it today. So she has to check in with I think Amy or Melissa or something like that to check in to make sure that they put it together the right way. And then once it's up and going, we'll let you know. And then you put any content you want to me, and Karen and I will look over it and we'll get it up for you.
Okay. And we'll be using that same Facebook page for the students as well, Tim, rather than having two separate ones at this juncture.
Okay,
And
that's fine.
and we will also be adding a page for our committee on the town website as well. So right now, the Clean Energy Task Force has our committee listed, but it doesn't, it's not like we have a separate page. So we're going to have IT hopefully add a separate page for us, and we can put information up on that as well. And then the next item has to do with the working platform. And so we used Google Drive for the last certification. And as you all know, Sustainable CT doesn't utilize Google Drive, doesn't work with Google Drive. We did bring this to their attention, but I don't think anything's changing on as far as that goes, at least not this year. But I can't say for sure because I haven't posted the changes. So I wanted to find out if there were thoughts if we want to stay with Google Drive or do we want to utilize a different platform? Any thoughts on that? I think, Rich, you had mentioned last year or 2 years ago when we first met about, was it Microsoft or
Yeah,
Microsoft?
that's what I'm used to using. It works well. That's what we've started using for work. I can't imagine that them not being a quasi-governmental agency isn't going to be having access to that as well. It works well for collaborative documents, very well.
Is it free though, like the Google Drive and Google Docs is?
I have no idea what the requirements are.
Okay. Because we can collaborate on Google Docs. If we just how everybody had access to the documents last time. I've started the 21 file. Well, actually, I should say I started the 20 file, but the 21 file would get started and it would be open to all the members, and certainly we can share and comment on documents on that as well. I use Microsoft with work, my job as well, like you, Rich. I've only been doing the Google Drive on the side with the organization.
Box works really well. I use that for another group that I'm involved with nationally. So I've got people from all over the country working on docs, and we do really well with that as well.
With Google Docs?
No, with Box.
Oh, Box.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not referring to Dropbox? Is it Dropbox or something else?
I think that's what it used to be called. It's just called Box now.
Okay. All right. So that is a platform that we might be able to consider.
Maybe, yeah. I think there's up to a certain amount. It's free, but you got to be careful what you're signing up for, because when they say free, they mean they can look at your documents.
Okay.
So just be aware of that.
Well,
I've done no research. Yeah, I use the paid version, so we don't have that issue.
What was the issue with the sustainable?
You said free. They can look at your information.
Anytime anybody gives you free access to anything, it's because they're going to be using the information one way or another. There is no free. If it's free, you're the product.
Which is pretty much every social media platform out there.
And I don't use any of them.
Wow. Tim, were you asking a question?
I was just asking what was Sustainable's sticking point with the Google Docs. They couldn't open it. They couldn't access it. Like, did we export it as like PDFs?
We couldn't load up from Google Drive onto the dashboard for certification.
Oh, okay. So
We
you had
yes.
to come from a regular computer file like Microsoft or
Yeah, we had to save it as PDF or
right,
a
that's
Word document.
Yeah, that's what I guess it's an extra step.
Yeah,
It
I
is
think
an
what we
extra
had to
step.
do was send it up from our own computers rather than from the Google Drive, so to speak. So you had to get it off
Exactly.
of there and then up to their system, which was quite painful.
It was time consuming for sure. So we can come back to this, maybe if everybody wants to explore it a little further, and we can discuss further at our next meeting.
Can you ask the people over there what most other towns do? Because I can't imagine we're the only ones that have an issue with it.
I certainly can.
Maybe they've got a program that they've bought into that we can use. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
At
something.
the
They
at the
must
state
have made it
level.
easier. Yeah.
And
Okay.
for participating municipalities, maybe they have access to it.
I asked if, if they had a recommended program, and I recall that she said no. And she was, I think it was almost like the first time she had heard that there was difficulty. I know that when we went through this, I spoke directly to their IT folks, so which is why she might not have been aware of it. So, all right, so we'll revisit this one then. And the last item I had up on the agenda was just regarding the meeting dates for 2021. Do we want to continue every third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m.? Or is there a change that somebody wants to propose?
It works for me.
It definitely works for me.
I'm good.
Okay. You're good. Okay. All right. So we can't really vote on it, but I'll put the dates together. We'll have it ready to vote on next month. And hopefully we'll have some more of the folks on board with us, and we can really kind of dive into this and get moving along for the next certification. That's all I have on our agenda. Is there any other comments anybody wants to make?
I can make a motion to adjourn. Is that it?
That's right. Does anybody want to second it?
I'll second.
Okay, sounds good. The meeting is closed. I should say all those in favor.